Welcome to the Shaw Consulting Social Housing Technology Podcast, and the second in our series of AI Explainer podcasts. In our last episode, we broke down the core types of AI transforming social housing. Today, we're diving deeper into how these models are trained and why the data social housing providers already hold could be the key to unlocking meaningful AI benefits. I'm Stuart, and today I'm joined, as always, by Shaw Consulting MD, Chris Shaw. Hi, Chris.
Hi, Stuart.
Okay, so to begin with, what kind of data is typically used to train AI, and how relevant is this for housing associations and local authorities?
That's a great starting point, Stuart. At its core, AI is trained on massive amounts of data. And generally, this includes a mix of structured and unstructured information. So from a structured data point of view, this is where you'd find it in databases, tenant records, repair logs, rent payment histories, property asset registers, and financial transactions. Unstructured data includes things like call center transcripts, complaint emails, inspection photos, texts from housing applications, and surveyor notes. So for housing associations and local authorities, this data is incredibly relevant, and it's the lifeblood of their operations. Their data is going to contain the complete history of all their properties, their tenants, and the service interactions. So for example, using historical repair times and costs, an AI model can predict future maintenance needs or flag properties at high risk of disrepair. And that real power source here is the rich longitude data that is held in the housing stock, the resident behaviours, which are unique to them.
The training data needs to be accurate and representative. What are the risks there? The data is going in is poor quality, outdated, or biased.
Yeah, this is where that old adage comes, garbage in, garbage out. It's absolutely true for AI. The risks of poor data quality are significant and fall into a few key areas. So if we have really poor data, we're going to get inaccurate decisions and it's going to cause waste. So if data is outdated or inaccurate, for instance, incorrect contact details or misclassified repair types, the AI model will make poor predictions. And this could lead to scheduling an inspector for a property that's already been addressed or wrongly predicting a tenant's risk of arrears, which then wastes resources and potentially, harming the service quality. Another area is bias and discrimination. So this is the most crucial ethical risk. If the training data reflects historical bias, perhaps disproportionately flagging tenants from a certain postcode or demographic as a high risk because past decisions were biased, the AI will learn and perpetuate that bias. And obviously, this leads then to unfair discriminatory outcomes in resource allocation, housing allocation, or intervention strategies, which is completely counter to the social mission of housing providers. Then last, is that loss of trust. So when AI predictions are repeatedly wrong or clearly unfair, both staff and residents then lose trust in the technology. And this then makes that adoption fail, no matter how good that underlying technology is meant to be.
So different types of learning underpin AI. Can you just talk us through supervised, unsupervised, and reinforcement learnings and where these approaches might show up in a social housing operation?
Yes, certainly. So these three, that fundamental way an AI model learns. So supervised learning, this is like learning with a teacher. The data is labeled. We tell the model, here are 1,000 repair requests, and here's the correct category for each one. So in a housing example, training an AI to automatically classify a new incoming repair request, e.g. plumbing, electrical, or structural, based on text description, which will then help to speed up that triage process. In an unsupervised learning way, this is learning without a teacher. So the model is given a large data set, and its job is to find hidden patterns, clusters, or anomalies on its own without predefined labels. So in a housing example, that might be identifying resident clusters with a similar tenancy behavior, perhaps a group that frequently reports specific non-emergency issues that could indicate an underlying systematic problem with a property that a housing provider wasn't aware of. And the last way is the reinforcement learning method. So this is learning by trial and error, like training a dog with treats. The model takes an action and receives a reward if it's successful, or a penalty if it's unsuccessful, and that helps to guide its next move. So in a housing example, optimizing complex schedules such as allocating repairs teams to jobs across a large geographical area in real time. The reward is reducing travel time and completing more jobs. The penalty is those missed deadlines or that long travel between sites.
Thanks, Chris. So just moving on to data governance, this is a huge issue for social housing providers. What best practices should be in place to ensure data is used ethically, securely, and in line with regulations such as GDPR?
Yeah, thanks, Stu. Yeah, data governance is non-negotiable, especially when dealing with sensitive personal information. We advise clients to focus on 3 pillars: compliance, security, and ethics. So, compliance, GDPR, it's that crucial first step in data minimization. Only collect and use the data strictly necessary for the AI function. Ensure you have a clear, lawful basis for processing and a transparent data protection impact assessment for any AI system, detailing how it handles personal data and mitigates risks. Tenants have the right to understand how their data is being used. From a security point of view, so we need to ensure we implement robust encryption both in transit and at rest. And we utilize pseudonymization where possible to decouple personal identifiers from the data used for training. Access controls must be strictly managed, following the principle of least privilege. And then lastly, it's all around those ethics and accountability. So, we need to establish a dedicated AI ethics board or a clear governance structure to review those AI models for bias before deployment. Implement this human in the loop approach, ensuring final critical decisions, like we mentioned previously, tenancy termination or resource allocation, are always reviewed and signed off by a staff member who can overturn an AI recommendation and be held accountable. Transparency on how the AI reached its recommendation is vital, really.
So, Chris, finally, how can organizations improve their data readiness before moving forward with AI? What steps should be taken to clean, structure, and make sense of the information they already have?
Data readiness, it's that bridge between having data and actually using AI successfully. It's an investment that pays huge dividends. So, firstly, audit and inventory. You can't improve what you don't know you have. So conduct a full data audit to map out all those data sources. Where's the information stored? Who owns it? And in what condition is it in? Next is to cleanse and standardize. So this is often the hardest part. We need to establish data quality rules and actively cleanse the data. This means resolving duplicates, correcting inconsistent formats, e.g. standardizing how addresses or repair codes are entered, and filling in those missing values. You need a single reliable definition of key entities, like tenant or void property. Third is the data architecture and integration. So, we need to break down those internal data silos. Information from the housing management system, the finance system, the repair system needs to be integrated into a centralized data platform or data warehouse. And this allows the AI to see a complete picture, linking rent payments to property maintenance history, for instance. Then fourth is data literacy. Finally, we really need to invest in data literacy training for our staff. They are the ones who input the data daily. They need to understand why accuracy and consistency is crucial to powering the AI tools that will ultimately, make their jobs easier and, the services to our residents better. So in short, you can think of it as being, find it, fix it, link it, and teach people to keep it clean.
Excellent, Chris. Brilliant summary there to finish off this podcast. That's been a great insight into how AI learns and what data matters. In our next episode, we'll look at what it means in the real world, from customer services to frontline teams. As always, if you want to find out more about how Shaw Consulting can support your organisation, get in touch with Chris via the website or via LinkedIn. Thanks for listening and goodbye.